All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. Now, 2.5 years ago, when the Texas Rangers signed starting pitcher Jacob deGrom, his arrival represented the turnaround for this franchise. The Rangers went from losing 94 games in 2022 to winning their first World Series championship that following October. But the Rangers were able to achieve World Series glory in spite of the fact that DeGrom was a non factor, as the oft injured pitcher only made 6 starts that year. Now, DeGrom won his second National League Cy Young Award with the New York Mets in 2019. And that year, DeGrom went 11-8 with a 2.43 ERA in 32 starts. But since then, DeGrom has never been able to make more than 15 starts in a season, which is part of the reason why the Mets allowed him to leave in free agency. And of course, subsequently, he signed with Texas. And after only making a combined 9 starts over his first 2 seasons with Texas, here in 2025, DeGrom is once again looking like the guy who has 2 Cy Young Awards on his resume. In 10 starts this season for the Rangers, deGrom is 4-1 with an ERA of 2.33 with 62 strikeouts. In deGrom's second start of the season, he gave up 4 runs against the Tampa Bay Rays, but since then he has not surrendered more than 3 runs in any of his outings. And you look at, and speaking of the outings, look back at his last 2 outings. Um, the next to last outing was against Houston about a week and a half ago. He went 8 innings. He scattered 5 hits. He struck out 7 and walked 1. Did it on 96 pitches. And then this past Wednesday against the New York Yankees in the Bronx, his first start, since leaving town, first start in the Big Apple, rather, since he left town. But nonetheless, 7 innings, 3 hits. He did give up 2 runs. He got a no decision in the Rangers' 4-3 loss. But nonetheless, deGrom is starting to look sharp like he was, in the prime of his career for the Mets. And that's going to be big for Texas if, that formula continues to stay the same. You look at the Rangers so far this season, historically, when you think about the Rangers franchise, they do it with their bats. But right now, Texas has the third best team ERA in baseball, and they're getting some good starting pitching so far this season with the likes of Jacob deGrom. You can also throw Nathan Eovaldi in that mix for the Rangers so far this season. You can also put in the likes of Mail, excuse me, as far as what he's been able to do for this Rangers pitching staff. And it's one of those where Texas, they're not really out of it. I mean, they're a couple of games out in the NL West, pardon me, the AL West rather. They're right there in the wild card, in spite of the fact I know that they've lost. They're on a bit of a losing streak. They have lost their last 6 games, but it's still early enough for the Rangers where they could try to get this thing going and get back on the right track. You think about Jacob deGrom, nonetheless, one of baseball's premier pitchers when he's healthy. But the biggest problem is he's been unable to stay healthy over the bulk of his career. You wonder, it's something I've said in the past. I feel like deGrom has overthrown throughout his career. You don't necessarily need to hit 100 on the radar gun as much as he had. And I think, he's putting such a stress on his arm, not only with the 100 mile an hour fastballs, but also, a 94, 95 mile an hour changeup. All of that stuff really isn't necessary, in my opinion. Okay. And I think subsequently, he has done damage to his arm with that. But nonetheless, you look at things right now for deGrom. Of course, he signed that big deal with the Rangers several years ago. He's still owed a combined $75 million over the next 2 years. If the Rangers were to fall out of contention, would they welcome the idea of trading deGrom? I think it could be a possibility if they fell out and they could, get from under that salary. But nonetheless, I think this Rangers team, again, it's still too early to say in the season. Okay, we're just at the Memorial Day weekend. I think if the Rangers are close enough, and of course with the expanded postseason, it means less sellers on the trade front. But I think, you know what, the Rangers could push their chips to the middle of the table and say, you know what, let's go all in on this and try to get back to the postseason and make it two World Series championships out of the last 3 years. That's just my personal opinion. On the flip side, if you're Texas, you could say, hey, with the way that DeGrom is pitching, maybe we can get from under this contract just for the simple fact of we don't know if he is going to be consistent because as good as Jacob deGrom has been so far this season for the Rangers, you also have to wonder, you know what, are you simply catching lightning in a bottle here just due to the fact that he hasn't been able to stay healthy? It was one of those I feel like, the Rangers giving deGrom that big deal was a risk. I always feel like when a team that has a guy and they've seen him develop in their system for so long, especially in a big market like the Mets, it's one of those if they decide to let him walk away, you always have to wonder. And again, it's just the inconsistencies of DeGrom's career and his inability for him to go out there and stay healthy. That's just my personal opinion as far as Jacob DeGrom goes. Everything else, like I said, when he's on, he's on. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes of things for Jacob deGrom and the Rangers. Me personally, I hope that he continues to look like the guy that won multiple Cy Young awards with the Mets. I hope that he continues to be the guy that was the National League's Rookie of the Year back in 2014. But again, there's always that if factor with Jacob deGrom, and of course, if he's able to stay healthy. But nonetheless, strong start here for Jacob deGrom in 2025. If you are the Texas Rangers, you definitely have to be happy with that. And let's just see if the former NL Cy Young Award winner can keep it up for the Rangers. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw on this podcast, please feel free to hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. Like I always say, it is greatly appreciated. Also, if you are on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365, and you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media, just like it is on the X. You can check me out on Instagram as well, 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Give me that follow. I'll give you that follow right back. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.